Beatrice Bruteau was a Catholic philosophical theologian whose publishing career ran from the late 70s into the late 90s. She synthesized Catholicism and Advaita Vedanta Hinduism together into a single system. Her main influences include Pierre Teilhard de Chardin and Bede Griffiths. Today I will be emphasizing only two books out of her catalog, the ones that I consider to be the most important. One is God's Ecstasy, which was published in 1997, and The Grand Option, which was published in 2001, which is a compilation of her essays all the way from the 1970s. In God's Ecstasy, she talks about the history of evolution in general, including the social and cognitive evolution of the human species, starting with the physical and then going into the chemical, the biological, and then into the cognitive and the social. In The Grand Option, she proposes how we can progress in terms of social and cognitive evolution. So I'm going to read some opening quotes. This first one, quoted from page 41 of God's Ecstasy. Edward Fredkin, an early computer genius, has said that the universe looks to him like a great computer with a program running in it. This being so, he says, two questions arise. What is the algorithm, repeated rule of operation for the program? And what is the question whose answer the program is supposed to compute? Beatrice Bruteau thought the answer could be found in the opening book of the Bible, Genesis. She writes, "The rule of operation is, be fruitful and multiply, or more generally, be more. Communicate being and be in every possible way." The program is so complex that there is no way to shorten it and jump to the final answer. Central to the philosophical theology of Beatrice Bruteau is the synthesis of evolution and incarnation. Evolution is on the side of science, and incarnation is on the side of theology or religion. She believes that the order of nature or the universe emerges out of chaos, and that correlates to the biblical notion in Genesis of creatio ex nihilo, or creation out of nothing. Evolution or emergence comes through increasingly complex symbiotic relations. So things continually come together and they build new wholes. So it's a form of holism. Atoms come together, they form molecules. Molecules come together, they form tissues. Tissues come together, they form organs. And organs come together and they form bodies, and so forth. The various stages of evolution are phases in the symbiotic emergence of the universe itself. The symbiotic emergence of the universe is theologically considered comprised of incarnational phases. So this is her way of seeing or of envisioning the body of God itself. Beatrice Bruteau writes about three different theological poises or self-expressions of the Godhead. The first is God the Father in the form of the infinite ground of being, the infinite fountain of being. The second is God the Son. God the Son is the infinite made finite as a cosmic community or society. God the Son is she calls it the theocosmic exegete. By that she means the revealer, the form of the universe that reveals what it actually is, that reveals its very own ground, that actually interprets what God is. And then she talks about God the Spirit as the creature uniting the infinite and the finite in the form of a finite self-consciousness. So the human creature unites the infinite and the finite together as a form of divine self-consciousness. Then she mentions, this is much more complex, but the Theotokos, or the Mother of God. This is the universe which ultimately integrates the creature with God. It gives birth to the universe, and it is the universe, and it's an absolute circle. And I believe that this is where she brings in Advaita Vedanta, the notion of an infinite consciousness, which is circling through everything. So the Mother of God, or the Theotokos, runs through the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. Beatrice Bruteau argues that the human species is the most advanced, at least cognitively advanced species in the history of evolution, but we still have ways to go. She says that we have evolved through a synthesis of two forms of consciousness. One of those is hierarchical, and one of those is relational. In the last 5,000 years, the hierarchical form of consciousness has predominated over the relational. Beatrice Bruteau argues that an integration of these two forms of consciousness is the ideal for creating the future of human civilization. The hierarchical rightly emphasizes order, and the relational rightly emphasizes a natural harmony and intimacy that cannot be enforced. The integral synthesis required for the future is a unity of order and relationality. The new rule, which has its basis in Christianity, is creative love. Beatrice Bruteau claims that the origin of evil in the human species, or in nature in general, lies in the evolutionary emergence of deception as a mechanism for higher intelligence. Deception makes it easier for a potential prey to avoid its predator and survive, and also for the predator to capture its prey. The implication is that in order to eliminate evil, we must move beyond deception and toward integrity and more deeply integral relationships. This can only be done through trust, and that is what faith is. That is the very essence of faith. So I have two final quotes to read here from Beatrice Bruteau. The first one is from her essay, The Living One, originally published in 1983, republished in the Grand Option, pages 138 through 139. We, the living, contain all that the past is and more. The fountain of living water springs up out of our heart from the very center of ourselves as living, that is, from the present moment, just as it gives itself forward into the future. This giving forward toward the future is the projection of spondic energy, is the agape love as prevenient grace, is forgiveness, is an active creative freedom. All of these mean radical novelty, an image of or participation in the divine act of creating out of nothing. It is not a matter of reshuffling the elements of the past. We are attempting to describe here what is called mythically the resurrection life. The resurrection is not a return to dealing with the events of the past. The resurrection is the act of living. And then she writes in her essay, Freedom, in 1980, in the Grand Option that's on page 172. Creativity may come to be seen as the real interior meaning of the act of faith. The living one, who is the creating one, is also the forgiving one, and forgiveness is an act of faith in the future, a reaching beyond the past and the knowledge of the past into new being as yet unknown. The act of faith is the act of uniting with the living one as living, as not dead. as not bound by the past, but as transcendent, free, and creating. It is not an act of knowledge, for knowledge is always knowledge of the past. To have faith is to enter into the other's creating, into the other's future, which has not yet appeared.